Starting with visual quality. The higher the resolution of the screen that you're recording, the better the visuals will be. Or so you may think. In my personal experience, here's what I actually do. Here is a screen recording of my Apple Studio display where I have taken the resolution or the dimensions of my monitor and made them the highest that they can go. In my opinion, I think that the font, the icons, and the overall appeal of the software is too small. So what I end up doing is this. Contrary to what is probably theoretically right, I downgrade the resolution of my monitor because I would much rather have everything appear bigger and easier on the viewer to see than that previous example where everything was smaller. And that leads me into tip number 2, which is shoot, edit, and export at the same resolution and frame rate. There are exceptions to this, and my first tip is actually one of them. Because my screen records are at a smaller resolution than 4K, I'm upscaling them into my 4K sequences and exporting them from there. But everything that you see on camera is at 4K. The bigger reason why I'm bringing this piece of advice here is because of the frame rates. Earlier on when I was creating content, I would have a frame rate mismatch. Everything that I shot on my camera was 24 frames per second, but it never occurred to me that screen recorders have a frame rate too. By default, most of them film at 30 frames per second. So when I would bring everything into a 23.976 frame per second sequence and export them, the smoothness of my screen records didn't look right. It was a little jittery. It was dropping frames because it actually was. So now I've actually gotten used to filming at 30 frames per second or 29.976. And my screen records also are at 30 frames per second. So when I export, I do it at 4K, 30 frames per second, thus matching for the most part my resolution and definitely my frame rate throughout all 3 stages of my process. Number 3, clean up the clutter. People are nosy, or they're at least curious if you were to show them your desktop background. And if you want them to focus on the subject that you're actually there to teach them as opposed to the icons, let's look at some ways to get rid of that clutter. The first one is look to see if your screen recorder has some sort of option to hide all desktop icons. In Camtasia, there's one. I'm sure there's other versions of this in different softwares. Another process that I got in the habit of doing is, since I have a dual monitor setup, I just made my home screen the computer monitor that isn't being screen recorded. This makes it foolproof to never have any icons in the background because all of those are always on my home screen on the monitor that's not being recorded. I will say though that the single biggest change that I've made in terms of decluttering my background, or at least hiding things in my background on my desktop, is to change the desktop background to a solid color. So for me, I might have Premiere Pro open for a whole screen record and not notice that it wasn't full screen. In fact, there might be just like a little sliver over to the side where maybe icons are showing. Now, in the past, I would have had the stock photo in the background that came with whatever Mac OS that I was using. But since changing it to a solid color, it makes it so much easier to cover that stuff up. All I have to do is create a little black rectangle and bring it over those icons to hide them. Now, the reason why I've switched to using black exclusively in the background is because of all of this information in the top right menu bar. I personally don't like showing this information in my screen records, so I just go in, mask out that little section, and then I don't have to worry about it anymore. It just makes life easier if the mask that you use is the same color as your background. Number 4, zoom in on or highlight important actions. Typically, when I'm done doing my screen recording, I'll do a couple passes of rough edits. And once I get it to the pacing that I like, then I will start keyframing some zoom ins and zoom outs, or highlighting all of the important actions that I want the viewer to really focus on. Number 5, screen recording, but for today's day and age of short form vertical content. One of the reasons why I bought the external monitor that I use, the studio display, is because when I tilt it vertical, it now acts as a vertical display, making the framing of my software a lot easier when I record tutorials for short form content. Also keep in mind safe margins when doing vertical content. One website I've just discovered that can help with this is safezonecheck.com. I'll link it in the description. I'm just uploading my video, and I can click the different social media for what fits in a safe zone and what doesn't for all the popular social media. If you are the kind of creator that wants their talking head to be on the screen at the same time of the screen record, here are some things that I've tried in the past. The most basic, and I think just works most of the time, is to put your image in a shape. Some tricks that work here are if you use a basic stroke on a shape to put over a mask that you've put on your image, and then if you put a drop shadow on that. Another method that I've used recently is just remove background in Camtasia. This is a simple click of an effect that you drag onto your talking head and it automatically removes the background. If you want to get creative with it, frame yourself as if you're part of the software. For example, in most of Adobe's products, they have the ability to move the windows in a way that's create different types of rectangles. And sometimes I go even further with this by inserting my talking head into the place where the video would actually go. Number 7, see if your screen recorder has some sort of mouse cursor smoothing. With cursor smoothing, anytime I create a cut and put those two clips together, Camtasia will automatically move the cursor from wherever it was in clip A to clip B in a smooth way. Here's a perfect example of how the mouse moves abruptly at the cut points. If I want to make this look smoother, all I have to do is highlight all of these clips, go up to the cursor properties, and then check smooth cursor across edits. Across the edits, the cursor will smoothly go from one spot to the next. And we can take this even further, highlight all of these and stitch them together. And then I will do edit cursor path. We can simplify the existing path, and the final result looks something like this, where the mouse goes exactly to the points that I want to show you in the quickest way possible. To take this even further, because it's a smooth motion of the mouse, it's not as jarring to the viewer to zoom in on the actions as well. This next one is keystrokes and mouse clicks. Sometimes it's important to showcase that you're right-clicking something. So most screen recorders will give you the ability to animate this, whether it's like a red square popping out or different ripple effects. Another thing with this is keystrokes. So if you have a hot keystroke and you want to showcase that through a graphic to the viewer, Camtasia has the ability to go in after the fact and then just show keystrokes. And anytime you hit a modifier in a key, it will show that with a graphic of your choosing. The most important thing that I've learned over my entire career as somebody that does a lot of tutorials that include screen recordings on the internet, and that is don't be afraid to re-record your tutorial. If it makes sense in the edit, that's great. But most of the time I'll go back and I'll do a whole nother screen record, and that one will take me half the time and will look just so much better. And if I do that again and again, and sometimes again after that, what I started with was probably an hour-long timeline of me trying to showcase some sort of process on some video editing technique. And then by the end of it, I'll do that screen recording again, and I'll have that thing down to like 10 minutes. Um, yeah, that's probably the biggest piece of advice that I could give in terms of screen recording and just creating tutorials on the internet is don't be afraid to go back and re-record your tutorial with the knowledge of what you would want to change from that previous take. With that in mind, another big thing that comes with screen recording is the audio. So I did do a video. It's kind of old now, but I think it's still relevant. It showcases a whole bunch of different microphones that you could use as a YouTube creator. And if you want to check it out, it's right there. Hopefully this video was helpful. If it was, don't forget to leave me that like. And until next time, my name's Javier Mercedes, and I hope you're out there living a life of abundance. Bye.